Alright, let's talk about Marvel Token. Over the weekend, the beta for Marvel Token Fighting Souls came out. It was fun. It was really, really fun, honestly. I had no issues at all playing the game. At least, that's what I wish I could say. Unfortunately, even after upgrading my PC like a month before, I had quite a few performance issues, and it seems like I wasn't the only one that was having these issues as well. So this is the tweet right here. Basically them giving us confirmation that they are working on a patch, essentially a day one patch for the game. Basically reducing overall CPU usage, that's the issue I had, fixing frame rate drops and lag, an issue I had, resolving an issue causing unnecessary shader compilation, an issue I had. They are addressing rollback netcode and crossplay issues. I did hear about this for a couple people, and then improving compatibility when streaming with OBS and Discord. That is also an issue I was having as well. It seems like overall this was kind of a big PC situation, and also PSN wasn't working for some people as well. This does lead quite a few concerns for the game, especially at launch. Now, I know what some people may say, why not buy this game on PlayStation? Thing is that I don't pay for PSN anymore. I haven't paid for it in over a year now. Particularly because I don't have to pay for internet on my PC. My PC just hooks up to my internet by itself. Whereas on PSN, I have to pay to be on a server. Despite not being able to play the beta, there were a couple of things that I was still excited for. Particularly the tournaments that were coming out. We actually had several come out over the weekend. Tamper Never Sleeps had an online tournament, and Versus Fighting also had their tournament for Marvel Fighting Souls. And in this video, we're going to be watching some of the matches and even talking about some of the system mechanics that the game has to offer. Unfortunately, I can't say exactly how this game plays, only because when I tried playing it, I just kept having terrible performance issues. The game was just basically in slow motion. But I did have a bit of an idea, at least when I entered into the tutorial mode for the game. And to be honest with you, it really is a lot like DBFZ. Well, more like a grounded version of DBFZ. The best way to explain how this game works in terms of like a grounded version of DBFZ, basically there is no super dash. There is a button in the game that is similar to super dash, but this button does not exist in this game. This is more kind of like Guilty Gear in that regards, where the super dash, there is no, F neutral button in the game in comparison to Marvel Token. Marvel Token doesn't really have a full screen super dash type mechanic. It's more tied to the defense mechanic, which we'll talk about that here in a sec. Despite not having super dash, I will say the combo structure is still very similar to DBFZ in that regard. So the best way to explain it is that in Dragon Ball Fighters, you basically have your lights, your medium attacks, and your heavy attacks. Similar to Marvel Token, there are auto combos, but in Marvel Token, you can only tap one button, whereas in DBFZ, you can whiff this entire attack. Now, you can't necessarily do this with the medium and the heavy. It's particularly just with the lights. You can entirely whiff this attack, and they'll come out at any point in time. In terms of the combos themselves, this game has the same trip mechanic that DBFZ has. So typically how the DBFZ combos work, essentially for not all the characters, but a good chunk of them, it's light, down medium, stand medium, and then you jump up and continue on with the combo. So it's light, down medium, jump light, medium light, and then you heavy attack and smash them down into the ground. It's very, very simple. Like that, basically. The combo structure is the same for every character in this game. However, there are a couple of things you can do differently. For Bardock, he can hit his combos a little bit differently. So, same thing. But then I do a special move at the end, which allows for a smashing attack at the bottom. And instead of a regular jump heavy, it actually corner carries a little bit better. It's really more for damage, if anything. That's the version with the heavy. And then that's the version with that's the light version. It's not that crazy amount of damage, but if you do the EX version, you get more damage, and you can do a combo, and you can call an assist. I got the Kid Buu assist going on right now, so I didn't connect, but you get the point. Basically, you can continue on further after that, especially in the corner. I think what was also kind of interesting is that it has the same trip mechanic, so whenever you do 2M, the character that you hit basically has like a trip animation where they kind of like fall forward almost. And then if you do stand M, you can basically connect that together. Same thing when you jump as well. It's not necessarily a fixed jump, but you kind of gotta, there's not necessarily any tracking when you do this. So you do 2M, stand M, jump M. And that'll connect to itself. This is very, very similar to how Marvel Tokon works, honestly. And Guilty Gear to an extent. I think Guilty Gear is a little bit more difficult, if anything, in comparison. It's more, I would say Guilty Gear is more execution heavy in comparison to this game. This game does have some crazy execution combos, but it seems a lot more simplified in Marvel Tokon, which I didn't really mind when I, just seeing the gameplay. And, even though, yes, my game was laggy during the time, messing around with the practice mode for a little bit, it does seem like it's a little more simplified, less things going on. The only thing, really, what they're trying to help you focus on is just the characters themselves. Playing 4 different characters, it makes a lot of sense that all these characters kind of play the same, especially in Dragon Ball FighterZ, where it's a 3v3. They want people that enjoy the anime to join and play the game. It's the same thing for Marvel Tokon. They want Marvel fans to come in and play the game and have an easy time. So that's why all the combos are kind of structured the way they are. I don't mind it, but I will say that DBFZ definitely has a little more depth, especially when it comes to corner combos. Because there's no wall break in this game, a lot of characters have insane combo routes in comparison to Marvel Tokon or really any fighting game, honestly. It's kind of insane how different these characters play mid-screen going into the corner. With Bardock, this is more of a new thing, especially with the patch. But Bardock has a loop in the corner that he can do if he hits you. So, like, let's say I, for some whatever reason, scenario-wise, I mix up my opponent. I get to hit them with the 2M at the beginning. Mind you, the damage is scaled because of the 2M, so the damage isn't the same, especially in a real match. It's not as optimal, but I hit him with the 2M, and whenever I do the knockup, because it counts as a smash attack, you can basically delay the light attack going into the loop. So damn, I messed it up right there. Oh, I messed it up there too. And then you can do it into a level 3. You can do the medium version, and it knocks him up. And then you can do a super. Burns you into a level 3. That's kind of Bardock's optimal combo route, basically going into the loops. And it's not to say that Marvel Tokon doesn't necessarily have these things. It just seems like a lot of it's more simplified. And there's still a lot to learn when it comes to Marvel Tokon, honestly. I mean, at the end of the day, it was still a beta. There's plenty of things to learn in training mode. There's plenty of things to learn during like team composition. And I think when the game comes out, we'll have a lot more time to discover a lot of these things, to see a lot of these things. I mean, Dragon Ball FighterZ is one of those games that, for a long time, Snapback, something that, where you could force a character to come in just by when you do Dragon Rush and hold the assist button, you can force another character to be pushed in. This is something that was in the game for over a year before players started abusing it after certain mix-ups got taken out of the game. So I do think Marvel Tokon still has a lot of potential, and it's very much possible with each patch going into balance patches, making characters stronger, weaker. I do think that more options will be opened up, and I do think there will be more system mechanics. I mean, they plan on supporting this game for 10 years, so there's a lot they can learn from this game. One thing that was interesting to see is well, they call it a crossover mechanic, but it's essentially like guard cancel. Not the same way as guard cancel, though. The way to do the crossover mechanic in Marvel Tokon is when you're blocking, you have to hit the assist button and a light attack. Similar to DBFZ, you can do the same thing. Whenever you block, if you hold back and assist, it'll cause a guard cancel. This does take a bar away from you. And on top of that, it does leave you quite vulnerable as well. However, in Marvel Tokon, what you can do is you can do this move and it instantly hits the opponent. So instead of me like hitting the light, if I don't block, I get knocked back full screen. This move is really, really risky in this game, particularly because if you do this and if I'm ready and I block, I get a full combo. Essentially, your character explodes just because, you used one of the defensive mechanics in this game. The same thing can be said about the other defense mechanic, like Reflect, where if I try to hit the opponent, it kind of pushes me, I would say like midway. Reflect is still a risky move in this game because if I'm staggering and I decide to do Dragon Rush, you get a combo. If I bait it out, get a combo. It's the same thing with sparking. Sparking is more kind of like a get off me tool than it is a defense mechanic, but it really helps out whenever you're in a situation where you don't want to block on wake up. You can now spark, and basically it pushes you essentially full screen. There's quite a few risks to sparking, especially if I bait it out on wake up. You can basically, same thing, hit somebody with a combo. It's a lot to it. There's other things you can do as well. There is also another, I wouldn't necessarily say mechanic, but it is a defensive option, is defensive assist. So for Android 18, she calls out a barrier, which I think anybody that's been playing this game for 2-3 years understands how ridiculously strong this move has become. A lot of people were using the barrier assist for mostly just like anti-zoning, in case, majority of the time in DBFZ, if you're jumping back, you're throwing a key blast at some point. I can call out Android 18 to basically block off the assist instead of having to take any damage. Usually, I would have to block this, and I would have to basically sit back. But with the Android 18 assist, I don't have to block. It's actually kind of crazy. I can kind of walk forward. You can kind of see Kid Buu takes a couple steps forward before the Android 18 assist goes away. I can walk. I don't necessarily have to block this. So I can technically jump. You can basically jump over your opponent whenever you call this assist. You can basically jump over your opponent whenever you call that Android 18 assist. So a lot of people use it for zoning. Over time, people started using it for like more physical attacks. So really good example. If I were to like do stagger pressure, if I want to keep the pressure, if I want to keep them in a block string during pressure, or if I really want to just counter any option that they have, I would call this assist. So instead of Gogeta being able to hit me whenever I try to do any type of stagger pressure, I can now call an assist. And I get a full combo. Ain't this game amazing? So Android 18 is really just one example of defensive assists or defensive style assists. There's actually quite a few in this game. Android 18 just so happened to be one of the first characters to have one because that's her default assist. There's 3 assists for each character in this game. They didn't add that until I think like season 3 or like season 2.5. I forgot what we ended up calling this particular patch of the game. But essentially, you get what I'm meaning. DBFZ has a lot of defensive styles or ways to defend yourself in this game, and it has a comeback mechanic. But yeah, basically, that's kind of how this game is. It's very it's got a lot of defense options, which became a lot of people's issues with this game because, you know, every match someone was using reflect, somebody was using the guard cancel, somebody was using sparking, somebody's using the Android 18 barrier assist or Android 17's barrier assist, where you can actually hit confirm off of. This game has a lot of defense mechanics. I'm sure there's some that I've missed, but in Marvel Tokon, these particular defense mechanics aren't in the game. You only have the what I talked about before, which is essentially similar to guard cancel. It said you don't switch out the character. I do believe that the reason for a lot of the defense options in this game is because there's a lot of effed up mix and block stun in this game. Compared to Marvel Tokon, Marvel Tokon does not have as many lockdown assists, which is something that Kid Buu really good at. This is a 57 frame advantage move. It is insane. You can do so many things with just this alone by itself. For a really long time, when Sonic Fox ran, I think he ran Cell, Kid Buu, and Gotenks, he would just run in. He would literally dash in, empty jump high, and you can attack low, or you can go. You can do a high attack. I didn't mean to do the jump in, but you can still hit him with the high attack or hit him with the low attack. This mix-up this isn't like the craziest mix in the game, especially now, but the oppressiveness of just the assist alone was just out of this world, honestly. I actually kind of miss Sonic Fox's team on this game. His Cell, Kid Buu, and Gotenks team. I actually do miss that team. I wish he had played that team more. And honestly, I don't think DBFZ would be the same game or as enjoyable if these defense options weren't in it, because if you had to block Cell mix or even have to deal with Kid Buu's assist lockdown, I'd rather die. Honestly, I'd rather die. And I mean, like I said, just this alone, Kid Buu is just one character. There are plenty of characters with lockdown assists that have just about the same amount of frame advantage as this one. And don't even get me started with the 3 characters that are opposing me right now. We got Gogeta Blue, Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta, and Super Saiyan Blue Vegito. These 3 characters have essentially ran this game for about 2 or 3 years now, particularly because of the assist and also because they can counter a lot of the defensive options in this game. It's actually pretty insane, especially guard cancel. What is interesting about the crossover mechanic in Marvel Tokon is that you can actually counter the crossover mechanic by hitting light and assist of your own. And basically, if you perfectly time it, you can lock out the opponent's assemble gauge. Basically, it makes it disassemble. And essentially, you can't call out any tagged characters. And it locks it down for quite some time, honestly. It's a pretty punishing thing to get hit by. I just find it kind of weird because with the lack of defensive mechanics in this game, it is interesting that essentially whenever you try to fight back, you can get countered. I think what is kind of interesting is that because DBFZ is a offensive and defensive game, there's a lot of options on both ways, whereas Marvel Tokon, it seems like they've kind of given a bit of leeway to both sides, but the defense seems to be hurting the most. But one thing can be said about Marvel Tokon that a lot of people seem to agree on is that the game doesn't have necessarily that crazy of mix-up. It's particularly in how the block strings work in Marvel Token, you can only press 4 buttons during a block string. So if you go light, light, medium, medium, you can't press any more buttons during the block string. You have to do a special move, or you have to basically call in an assist. You can't really press anything else. Whereas in DBFZ, it's a little bit different. You can go light, light, medium, medium, heavy, special move. Once you hit the heavy attack is when usually a special move has to come out. But there's also the option of like stagger pressure. So, I mean, depending on like frame advantage for certain characters. Stagger pressure is more important for baiting out moves. Same thing, like, you know, I talked about how you can stagger pressure and bait out reflect. A lot of people don't even go for stagger pressure. They kind of just continue on. So you'll see a lot of people, they'll just basically do light, light, medium, heavy, and then do a special move after the fact, call in an assist, or call in an assist after 2 hits. After like 2 block strings, people will like call in an assist. It's very, very interesting. I do also think, like I said before, it is a beta, so I do think that comfortability is where a lot of people are kind of struggling with. And I do think that that's why some of the criticism is coming towards this game's way. Me personally, I think the game looks sick. I think the combos are sick. Like I said, it's just a more simplified version of DBFZ. It makes things a lot more easier to play. I think it'll be very interesting to see the characters they'll add. I mean, they expect to support this game for 10 years. So that if they're doing 4 characters a year, that's 40 Marvel characters being put into this game. And I think at the end of the day, as long as you're playing the character you enjoy and having fun with them, I don't really see too many issues with how the game's structured. Like I said, it's still a young game. I do think that over the course of 10 years, Arxis will turn this game into something even more phenomenal than what it is now. And to me, that's exciting. What was also pretty cool was that they showed off the top 5 most played characters during the beta. So we got Magic, we got Spider-Man, which I actually thought Spider-Man would be number 1, if I'm being honest with you. Blade's 3, Doctor Doom is 4, and we got my boy Wolverine. Now, I am going to say something about Wolverine, and I'm sorry to those that are Wolverine fans, myself included. I am a Wolverine fan. I do consider myself a Wolverine fan. It's not looking too good for the boy. If I'm keeping it a buck with y'all, it's given C tier. During the versus fighting tournament, they were actually clowning Wolverine during some of the matches. We got our boy Spoon versus Silly Cord Zoro. 2 really good players, honestly. But they basically were saying that Wolverine has no mix in this game.
That blade shooter assist, oh my god. He's calling it from full screen and just running in while you're getting juggled and hit confirming. It's insane.
Wow, he blocked the mix, the can mix. Oh, look at the mix. The mix was empty.
Look at the
my heart
right now.
My heart hurts every time I see that.
Exist on Wolverine.
I'm just saying, the Ghost Rider one's been hitting. The low and the overhead off of that has been hit.
Listen, all right, the evidence is the evidence, but let's see.
Low, block that. Oh, no, get hit by the frame trap. Like,
it seems like Ghost Rider has more mix, if anything.
Either way, wake up. Absolutely. Go straight for the Inferno engine, Ghost Rider.
Wolverine, though, technically is supposed to be more like a brawler type character, but it's just insane to see people like block so much of the stuff that he can do.
You go for the right crossover, there's different categories, offensive and defensive. You go for the offensive crossover, oh my days, tied the shoelaces there as well. Beautiful stuff.
The thing is,
the EX closes straight afterwards too. No punish as we go for the crossover here. Tags out and is going to try and use Shuri a bit, but the whiff punish there with the light.
Yeah, I still don't care what anybody says. He still looks sick in this game, I'm not gonna lie. And my thing is that at the end of the day, you're gonna get opened up by something. You can't block forever at the end of the day, so I'm not too worried about people complaining about really just mix-ups in general, because there's still a lot of things, especially with the active tag system, that I think will be really interesting to see how people capitalize on that. The last thing we gotta discuss. This came out 7 days ago, but I've watched this so many times that it's just like it's injected into my veins at this point. They revealed the first character they'll be releasing as DLC for the game, and it's Cyclops. I'm so excited for this character. Y'all don't understand. Like I'm a Wolverine fan at heart, but Cyclops, he's the GOAT. He's just the GOAT.
Listen to me. You will do nothing but reduce everyone to ash.
No, I can control it for long enough to do what I have to. I will save mutant kind.
He looks so good.
The new age of the Phoenix begins.
He looks so good. He looks so good in this game. And they got my boy Ray Chase voicing him. One of the OGs for Cyclops. A lot of people have been trying to figure out exactly what this means for the game. Because I mean, adding Cyclops, does that mean that he has a rival X-Men team coming up? You know, are the next 3 characters going to be X-Men characters, basically? Because I mean, Cyclops has a team based around the Phoenix Force in the comics. His team consists of Magic, who's already in the game. You got Emma Frost on the right, and you got Colossus, and then you got Namor all the way to the left. So I mean, maybe it means that these characters are confirmed for the game. But also, it's kind of interesting because if they really want to mix and match this DLC, we would have to wait a while for Emma, wait a while for Colossus, wait a while for Namor. And that means that we would basically be waiting like 4 years, essentially, for these characters to be kind of brought together, or for this team to be brought together. If I'm being honest with you, the only character I could see being added to this game that's on this team is Colossus. Emma Frost and Namor, it kind of just depends, honestly. I really don't see them adding these characters. I really don't see them adding Namor to this game, if I'm being honest with you. Granted, though, it is going to be at least 40 characters being added through DLC alone. So it's possible I could be wrong. And then apparently they are going to be adding more skins to the game as well. They already got the classic suit for Iron Man, Captain America. They even got the punk rock outfit for Storm. So I do hope there's still a chance that we'll get the original outfit for Cyclops as well. All I'll say is that the future of the DLC for this game is very, very unknown. I really don't know how they're going to continue on with the DLC for this game. They have so many options. Like I said, Cyclops could be a part of his own team. Or maybe they're just adding anti-hero / villain type characters within this DLC. Cyclops could also just not be part of a team at all and just be a character within the game. And there's a lot of characters they can add. I mean, there's multiple characters they can add, honestly. I really want more villains, so I want a lot of more Spider-Man villains. Doc Ock, Shocker, or even like Scorpion. I would also like Thanos, Sabretooth, Nightcrawler would be crazy. Beast and Iceman would also be great. I really could also still see them adding like Luke Cage and Miles Morales. Now, some people would say that Miles and Spider-Man would kind of play the same, but the unique system for Spider-Man is his webs, whereas Miles could probably just get the lightning. I do think that Arc System can make the character different enough that it'll still be a justifiable buy for the DLC. I mean, shoot, I'm getting Miles Morales no matter what. I don't care what anybody says. They could be the same exact character. Spider-Man and Miles could be the exact same character. I really don't care. They could also add characters like Iron Fist, Shang-Chi. With that being said, though, I think Marvel Tokon is going to be pretty fine, honestly. I think the mechanics in the game are interesting. The tag system, the way tag works, the way offense, the way defense work. I think the game's still kind of in its infancy in terms of, players just getting to learn it. It hasn't nowhere near reached its potential, if I'm being honest with you. There is a tournament, I believe, coming out a week after Marvel Tokon releases for CEO. So we'll see where the high level play goes after a week that people will have playing this game, discovering new things with the tag system. We'll really get a chance to see like what characters will be kind of broken or mainstays. If I'm being honest with you, it's looking like Danger, Magneto, Doom, and maybe Iron Man might be the characters that are a little bit S tier. Black Panther as well, I think, will also be pretty insane. I'm probably going to do a top 16, top 32 tournament reaction for when CEO comes out. So that'll be pretty interesting. And with that being said, thank y'all for watching. I'll see you guys later.